of the African Union.
Madame la vice-présidente de la Commission,
Madam
Mesdames
Deputy
et Messieurs
Chairperson
les
of the
commissaires,
Commission, commissioners, heads of the various organs of the African Union, the chief executives of the regional economic communities, members of the PRC. I would like to warmly welcome all the ministers and the high representatives of member states. And at the same time, I want to express our appreciation for your gracing this meeting with your presence. And I declare open the meeting at the 41st Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union. And now I want to call upon the protocol of the African Union to tell us the program of the opening ceremony. Protocol, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. May you please stand up as the anthem of the African Union is played. Thank you very much. You may please take your seats. Honorable Aissata Tassa, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Senegalese abroad of the Republic of Senegal, and Chairperson of the Executive Council for the year 2022. Your Excellency, Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Honorable Minister Stanley Kakubo, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Internal Cooperation of the Republic of Zambia, Honorable members of the Executive Council, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Sazavaganwa, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and all the leadership of the Commission here present, Your Excellency Dr. Vera Songwe, United Nations Under-Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Your Excellencies, ambassadors here present, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of African Union organs and regional economic communities, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols duly observed. It is a beautiful day here in Lusaka, Zambia, and I wish to warmly welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 41st Ordinary Session of the Executive Council, which is being held at the magnificent Kenneth Kaunda wing of the Mulungushi International Conference Center. Our program for today is as follows. We will have a statement by Honorable Stanley Kakubo, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of Zambia, followed by a statement by His Excellency Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. This will be followed by an opening statement by Honorable Aissata Tassa, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Senegal and Senegalese abroad, and Chairperson of the Executive Council for the year 2022. Thereafter, we are going to have a group photo. After the group photo, we'll have a cross session. The cross session will be held in this venue. Honorable members of the Executive Council, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I now humbly request Honorable Stanley Kakubo, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of Zambia, to deliver his opening statement.
Your Excellency Aissata Tall Sall, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Senegal, and also Chairperson of the Executive Council. Your Excellency Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Your Excellencies, Honorable Members of the Executive Council of the African Union, Your Excellency Deputy Chairperson of the African Union, Commissioners, senior officials from the AU, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to warmly welcome you all to the 41st Ordinary Session of the Executive Council and take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation for your attendance to this meeting. Chairperson, the implementation of the aspirations of Agenda 2063 remains high in our organization's priorities. It is for this reason that I wish to call upon all of us as member states to renew our commitment to fully implement Agenda 2063 and all of its flagship projects. We therefore need to take advantage of the coming into force of the African Continental Free Trade Area so as to attain the aspirations of the African people. In order to take full advantage of the AFCFTA, it is necessary for our countries to produce and trade in value-added products. We are all experiencing the high cost of capital, which is binding and constraining to value addition, growth, and transformation agenda of our industries. To address this challenge, we need to find innovative ways of reducing the cost of capital for Africa. We need to mobilize resources, and also we should be accessing alternative financial resources to bolster the competitiveness of African products. Zambia is willing and ready to play its part in promoting and enhancing increased intra-Africa trade. Chairperson, as we reflect on the theme for the year 2022, we are all reminded of the need to up efforts in translating the continent's agricultural potential into agricultural growth and food security for all. Chairperson, in our quest to eliminate hunger, malnutrition, and enhance socio-economic development, we need to reaffirm our commitment to the implementation of the 6 global targets outlined in the African Regional Nutrition Strategy. We also need to seize emerging economic opportunities to improve our production capabilities in the agriculture sector. This will not only make Africa self-sufficient in food production, but also make Africa a net exporter to the rest of the world. Chairperson, I would be remiss in my remarks if I did not highlight the important role that peace and security continues to play in our development agenda as Africa. In this regard, our continued efforts to promote trade and investment for jobs and wealth creation in our economies, there is need to invest in peace. Therefore, we must act swiftly in silencing the guns on our continent to free Africa of pockets of violence, terrorism, and insurgencies. Chairperson, as we deliberate and approve the allocation of resources in the budget for 2023, it is imperative that we collectively enhance our efforts towards resource mobilization and prudent utilization. We must also strengthen our resolve to curb the illicit financial flows in our continent. Therefore, we must make efforts to increase the financing of the AU budget and work towards ensuring that the continent supports its own programs. Chairperson, it is also important to remind ourselves that COVID-19 is still in our midst. Its negative impacts on our societies and economies remains a matter of grave concern. There is need, therefore, to strengthen our capabilities to manage the long-term social and economic effects of the pandemic. We must put in place strategies to ensure that our economies and societies are more resilient to external shocks. We can only achieve this by working together as a continent. Chairperson, as I draw to a conclusion, I am confident that our deliberations during this session will lead to positive outcomes and recommendations for the considerations of our heads of state and government. I also want to mention that during your stay in Zambia, I invite you all to explore the sights and the sounds of our dynamic city of Lusaka and visit our tourist attractions beyond Lusaka. We have excellent packages for you. I thank you, and God bless the Union.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement. I now have the honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to make his statement. Thank you.
Madame la Présidente du Conseil
Madam
exécutif,
Chairperson of the Executive Council, members of the Executive Council, Madam Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Madam Executive Secretary of the UNECA, commissioners, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee, Chairman of the Regional Economic Communities, Chief Executives of the Regional Economic Communities and Regional Mechanism, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the government and the people of Zambia for all the efforts made in order to afford this very appropriate forum for the optimum conditions and facilities for this meeting. It is the 7th session of the OAU, at which our heads of state and government had prepared the roadmap for, in fact, to baptize in Lusaka this beautiful town, which has been transformed with the developments that have taken place in order to welcome and host this 41st ordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Union. This meeting is being held in an atmosphere which is marked by crisis and also the outbreak of COVID-19, the existence of terrorism, the multilateralism crisis, and also the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. In fact, there are different sensitivities, and this exposes the vulnerability of our health systems and also stresses our capacities at different levels. Madam Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, despite the scope and the expansion of this crisis, we have remained faithful to the objective that we set in 2001 here in Lusaka to change the political paradigm which is embodied today in the priorities and the structuring projects of Agenda 2063. This session of the Executive Council will not only discuss the implementation of the different programs and also in the intersession the various programs. But we also will give priority to the implementation of the recommendations that aims at countering the negative impact of what I've mentioned, which are impacting the life of our peoples. The specialized technical committees in charge of the social development convene in order to discuss, among others, the issues that relate to the strengthening of gender equality, the empowerment of women, and the positive masculinity, and also decent employment, and also the program for the protection of migrant workers, and also for children as well as elderlies. In fact, there are many activities that have been carried out and which focus on traditional medicine, the fight against the drug, and the speeding up of reducing maternal mortality, the modalities for the implementation of phase 1 and phase 2 of the reform of Africa CDC, and the review and the revision of its statutes and the sustainability of its financing, and the process for choosing the country that will host the headquarters of the African Medicines Agency. The implementation of the theme of 2022 on food security and nutrition has generated over the past 6 months many activities that are focusing on that is the increase in investment in nutrition, the strengthening of partnerships and building institutional capacities, as well as environment which is conducive to nutrition. And the activities that have to be carried out should further mobilize and harness an approach for nutrition, agricultural production, the school feeding, and other such activities. The supplies and access to food and cereals, in fact, part of these approaches. The involvement of the private sector and the cooperation with the international institutions that can contribute to attain the objectives as embodied in the Malabo Declaration should be welcome. In each of these areas, your Council will have to ponder over the recommendations that have been proposed and also validate them. Madam Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on the report on regional integration in Africa prepared by the Commission for 2022, in fact, reveals the progress that has been made in the process of integration. At least it highlights the different performances of the regional economic communities, which reveal the institutional capacity that are differentiated at different levels. In fact, in the identification of the constraints, as well as in the formulation of recommendation in order to overcome these. It behoves your Council within the recommendation to determine the modalities for the implementation on the basis of the human and financial capacities of each regional economic community. The effectiveness of this implementation will depend on the strengthening of inter-REC coordination on the one hand, and between the Commission and the RECs on the other hand. These are very promising, and it will obviously implement this protocol between the Commission and the regional economic communities and regional mechanism. The division of labor between the African Union and the RECs and the member states, which is under consideration, and the operationalization in the area of peace and security of the interactive platform, which is known that the exchange of knowledge will give this action more substance. The coordination will be of great usefulness in our efforts in investing into the operationalization of the second plan of the priority action for infrastructure, which is vital, which is PIDA Stage 2. It will enable us to optimize the resources and will give a boost to our integration. It will also be for the positions, African common position that we will adopt on issues of common interest. We also want to mention our common position on access to energy and also the energy transition during COP27, which will be hosted by the Arab Republic of Egypt. And therefore, we have also to put forward our candidates for our different posts, for the different posts in the international system. Madam Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the present situation, which is marked by various crises, in fact, push us to adopt different approaches in order to improve economic and corporate governance of the continent in the prospect of, in fact, entrench our position and our place in the international fora. In fact, the Commission has set up a joint commission, that is, which brings together the Commission and the organs of the African Union and the member states that are in charge of proposing conceptual mechanisms for feasibility on the decisions that we adopt. In the same vein, the Commission pursues the institutional reforms through the implementation of the decisions, particularly the one concerning the implementing the transitional plan for human resources, whose main components are the system, that is competence and also the recruitment plan and program. Efforts have been made in order to conclude successfully the financial and budgetary session, which is an essential aspect of the structural reform. This is to ensure the sustainability of the financing of the African Union. And the meeting of F15, which met in May in Rabat, Morocco, in fact determined the appropriate modalities for the implementation of the decisions of Johannesburg and Kigali, adopted by the Assembly in June 2015 and July 2016. I want to echo the statement of F15, which at the end of the meeting asked member states to take very practical and concrete measures in order to ensure that we do something about the dwindling contributions of resources. In fact, if we go in that direction, we will reduce our dependency on our partners, and we obviously want to be as autonomous as we have always aspired. It's not only to mobilize additional resources, but we have to be effective and efficient, in the sense that the internal audit report talks of an improvement in the execution of the budget and also the implementation of the recommendations that are related to the audit findings. We are determined and encouraged by this improvement in order to pursue with a firm approach in order to produce positive results. Madam Chairperson, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, beyond these activities that have been carried out during the intersession, the report of the Ministerial Committee on the follow-up and implementation of Agenda 2063, that is after the first decade, will enable you to fathom the operationalization and also the level of progress that, in fact, which talks of the difficulties that have to be ironed out in order to give a more sustained rhythm to the implementation. In fact, your orientations and your instructions on this first decade of the implementation will lay the foundations and pave the way for the second decade that is expected over the next years, that is 2023, which we hope will have greater success. It is in these terms of hope that I want to express our unanimous satisfaction, that is the election of the Bureau of the Pan-African Parliament, and I've had the honor and privilege of having witnessed that process with our parliamentarians. Together, we have succeeded in giving a real improved image of the Pan-African Parliament, and I want to commend and to recognize the presence of the new President of the Pan-African Parliament in our midst. Despite the difficulties, Africa each day shows that Africa is able to solve its own problems by itself. Your Council, I'm sure, will give and set a new example of this vitality, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement. May I now invite Honorable Aissata Tall Sarr, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Senegalese abroad of the Republic of Senegal and Chairperson of the Executive Council for the year 2022, to deliver her opening statement.
Thank you. Je voudrais avant tout vous demander.
Before everything else, I would like us to remember President Jose Eduardo dos Santos, the former president of the Republic of Angola, who was actually a kingpin in African politics and a major stakeholder in our organization. Can we please rise for a minute of silence?
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, His Excellency Honorable Stanley Kasongo Kakubu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Zambia, Her Excellency Vera Songwe, Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa, Excellencies, distinguished ministers, Madam Monique, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, heads of the Regional Economic Commissions, distinguished ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. On your behalf and on my personal behalf, allow me first of all to express our sincere gratitude to the government of Zambia for the warm welcome extended to us all since we arrived here. I would like to thank my colleague and brother, Honorable Stanley Kakubo, and the government of Zambia for the warm welcome that was actually extended to us ever since we arrived in this beautiful city of Lusaka. The 41st ordinary session of the Executive Council, it's taking place in a rather challenging security, political and security context. As a matter of fact, several countries and regions of the continent actually still facing huge crises, including political crises and terrorist attacks. The socioeconomic consequences of this situation is even worsened by the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, but mostly by the outcome of the crisis in Ukraine. The extraordinary summit that we recently held on the 27th and 28th of May 2022 in Malabo on the humanitarian situation in Africa and on constitutional changes are actually milestones that will remember, if need be, the emergence or the urgency that we need to act. We do hope that here, the commitments that were taken by our heads of state in Malabo will make it possible for us to speed up our agenda on promoting democracy, good governance, peace, and security in Africa. This situation is so alarming, but it should not get us to forget the importance of this agenda. My dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting today is called upon to focus on very important themes, including the operationalization of Africa CDC, the consideration of the first conference of state parties of AMI, especially on its headquarters. And we are also going to consider the working documents of the fourth media coordination meeting, and of course we'll be considering the 2023 budget of our union. As far as Africa CDC is concerned, it is worth noting that for the past few years, it has remained the most important Pan-African institution, considering the decisive role that it played in combating and preventing and also providing treatment for COVID-19, and also making sure that there is vaccine coverage on the continent. And so today it is worth noting that we need to boost its operationalization, especially in terms of response to emergencies. And as far as AMA is concerned, it is important that we get it up and running so that in the medium term, we can actually resolve the problem of lack of access of African people to quality and affordable medications. And this is the only way that we can actually reduce our huge dependency on important medications from outside Africa.
Suivant le mandat de la conférence, notre présente session va
The
adopter
current
le
session
budget
today is going to
2023
adopt
de
the
l'Union
2023
dans un
budget of the
contexte
African
de
Union
timide reprise des
in a
économies
context
africaines
of
fortement
gradual
malmenées ces dernières
recovery
années.
of African
Nous
economies.
invitons ainsi
And so
la
we are calling
Commission
on the Commission
à
here
privilégier
to
l'optimisation et l'efficacité
make
dans
sure that there is
l'utilisation de nos
efficiency
ressources.
in the utilization
Pour ce qui est
of
de la
our
réunion
budget.
semestrielle de
For the media
coordination
coordination
issue de la
meeting,
réforme institutionnelle
which is
en
part
cours,
of the
elle
ongoing
revêt une importance
reforms,
capitale.
it is very
En effet,
important.
elle
Yes,
permet,
it is
sur
important
un mode
because
allégé, au bureau de la conférence
the-
et aux
the-
communautés économiques régionales,
the regional economic
ainsi qu'aux
communities
mécanismes
and the
régionaux,
regional
d'échanger
mechanisms
des
will
vues et des
exchange
expériences
opinions
sur des sujets
and
majeurs
views on
autour
issues,
de
on very
l'intégration
important
régionale
issues
africaine.
relating to continental
Cette rencontre
integration.
permet surtout un
This
suivi
meeting is
et
going
une
to
évaluation
ensure that we do
régulier
proper
du mécanisme
monitoring
de
and evaluation
d'harmonisation
of
et de planification
coordination,
stratégique
harmonization,
des
and
programmes
strategic
de l'Union
planning
africaine,
of African
des
Union
CER et
programs,
des États membres.
the RECs, and
Bien
member
entendu,
states.
cet
Of course,
exercice repose
this
sur le
exercise
principe de
also is
subsidiarité,
based on the
de
principle of
complémentarité
subsidiarity
et
and
d'avantages
complementarity,
comparatifs
and also
en vue
comparative
d'accélérer
advantage
l'intégration
in order
africaine.
to expedite the
C'est donc
African
l'idée
integration
de cette
agenda.
rencontre
This means
semestrielle
that
de
this
coordination
media
rendu
coordination
davantage
meeting,
nécessaire
which was
par
even
la
made more
répartition des
important
tâches
by
entre l'Union
the division of
africaine et les
labor
CER,
between the African Union
devrait
and RECs,
permettre à
should
ces
make it
dernières
possible for
de
the
mieux
RECs
contribuer
to
à la
better
réalisation
contribute
des
towards
objectifs de l'Union
achieving the
africaine.
objectives of the African Union.
S'agissant de la réforme institutionnelle en cours,
With regard to the ongoing
nous
institutional
réjouir de la
reforms,
fin
we
de
do
sa première
appreciate
phase
the first
de mise en
phase
œuvre
of
de l'enclenchement
this
en
reform
2022
and
de la
the
seconde
second phase,
phase
which started in
pour le parachèvement
2022.
des
And
chantiers
we are going to do
restants,
our
à
best
savoir,
to
entre
make
autres,
sure
la
that
finalisation
we
de la division du
finalize
travail
the
entre les
division of
CER
labor
elles-mêmes
between
et
the
les États
AU,
membres,
the
la
RECs,
réforme
the
des
REMs,
organes
the member
judiciaires
states,
et
the
quasi-judiciaires,
reforms
la réforme
of
du
the
Conseil de
legal
paix
organs,
et de
the
sécurité,
reform of the Peace and
sans
Security
oublier
Council,
le Fonds pour
and
la paix et la
lastly,
Force africaine
the
en
Peace
attente,
Fund and
qui
the
devront
African
être
Standby
opérationnels
Force, which should
de
go
façon
operational
sûre.
as soon as
Un
possible.
autre chantier prioritaire de
Another
l'agenda
priority of
2063,
Agenda
où les mêmes
2063,
performances sont notables,
where
la
the
fin
same
de sa première
performance has been
décennie
noted,
de mise en œuvre est également ouvert.
is also
Cet agenda
into play.
amorce
This
ainsi
agenda
un tournant
is
décisif
actually a
avec la
turning
soumission
point
attendue
with
au
the
sommet de février
expected
2023
submission
de
in
son
February
rapport
2023 of
sur
the
l'évaluation du
comprehensive
premier plan
report
de
on the
5 ans.
evaluation
Mes
of
chers
the
collègues,
first 10-year plan.
2022, et
Dear
vous l'avez dit,
colleagues,
Monsieur le Président,
2022, and the
coïncide
chairperson
avec
said
le
it here,
20e anniversaire
coincides
de
with
la
the
création
20th
de l'Union
anniversary of the
africaine.
inception of the
Elle est
African
donc
Union.
une
And
année
so
charnière
2022
de notre
is a turning
organisation
point in our
qui lentement,
continental
mais
organization,
sûrement,
which
est
is
à l'œuvre
slowly
pour
but
atteindre
surely
les objectifs
is
que nous lui
doing
avons
its best
assignés.
to achieve the
C'est donc
objective that
l'idée
we have set for
ici
ourselves.
de
And so here,
féliciter la
I would like
Commission
to
et les États
congratulate the
membres
African Union
pour tous
Commission
les efforts
and the member
consentis
states for all the
ayant
efforts they've
abouti à ces
made
résultats
that
probants
have made it
dans
possible for
l'atteinte
us
des
to achieve
objectifs
all
et
the
la mise en
results that we
œuvre
have
des
today
projets prioritaires
to
de l'Union
implement
africaine.
priority programs
collègues,
of
mesdames
our
et
continental
messieurs,
organization.
comme je le
Your
soulignais,
Excellencies, ladies
la
and
réunion de
gentlemen, like I
coordination
said before,
semestrielle
the media
met un accent
coordination meeting
particulier sur la question
lays
de
emphasis
l'intégration
on
régionale.
continental
Or,
integration.
vous le savez,
Yet, you
l'intégration
know that
est au cœur
integration
des
is
missions
at the
de
heart
notre
of,
organisation,
of
et ce,
our
depuis
organization,
plusieurs
and this
décennies.
has been our
Elle
mission
est
ever since.
indispensable à la croissance
Integration
des
is
économies
indispensable
africaines.
for
Elle est
African
indispensable
economic
à nos
growth,
stratégies de développement
indispensable
intégrées
for
à
our
l'échelle de notre continent.
development
La
of the
formation d'une
continent.
communauté économique africaine recommandée par
Creating
l'État
economic,
d'Abuja
the economic
1991
communities
est reprise
has
aujourd'hui dans
actually
l'agenda
been in the
2063 de
Abuja
l'Union
Treaty since
condition de
1991,
l'atteinte de nos
and so this
objectifs
actually
d'une
is
Afrique
very
pacifiée.
very indispensable for us to
Je
create
suis heureux de
a
relever à
successful
cet
Africa.
égard
And so it
les
is worth
avancées
noting
significatives
that
qui ont été
the strides that
réalisées
we've made
avec
so
notamment
far
le démarrage
with
effectif
the
des
effective
échanges dans le cadre de la zone de
operation
libre-échange
of
continentale
the
africaine, la
CFTA,
ZLECA, et ce,
the
depuis le
AFCFTA,
1er janvier
since the 1st of
2020.
January 2021.
La création du plus grand marché
The
commun
creation of the
africain
biggest
constitue
free
une
market,
avancée
the
fondamentale,
AFCFTA,
à la fois
is a
historique et
major
économique
stride for
sans
the African
précédent
Union,
de notre
and
continent.
it is the first
Il
in
est
our
attendu
continent.
que cette
It is
ouverture du marché
expected that
africain
this African
crée dans un
market
proche
is
avenir
going to create in
une
the near
nouvelle ère
future
de
a
croissance
new
et de
era of
développement
growth
inédit pour
and
le continent.
unprecedented development for the
Notre
continent.
engagement à y
Our
travailler
commitment,
doit être
we
sans
all have to be
scrupule
committed
et
towards
sans
that
concession.
objective.
Mes chers collègues,
My dear
je sais
colleagues,
pouvoir compter sur
I know
votre
I can
esprit
count
constructif.
on your
Je sais
constructive
surtout
spirit.
pouvoir compter
I know that
sur
I can
notre
count on
commune
you all,
détermination
count
à
on
œuvrer
our
pour
common
l'Afrique
determination to
afin
work
d'aboutir
for
à
Africa
d'excellentes
so that at the end of the day,
ainsi
we are
qu'à de
going
fructueuses
to have
conclusions au bénéfice
fruitful
de nos
outcomes
peuples.
that will be at
Je
the benefit,
déclare
in the
notre
benefit
session
of our
ouverte
people.
et
And
vous
I'll
remercie de
declare
votre
this
aimable
session
attention.
open, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your statement. We have now come to the end of the opening ceremony. May I now invite the High Table, Honorable Ministers, elected members of the African Union Commission, and heads of delegation to go for group photo. Protocol, please kindly guide the delegates to the venue. To the rest of the delegates, please kindly remain seated. I thank you all and wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you.